Well, hello everyone. This is Robin Nielsen with Insulite Health and PCOS.com, and I'm the Chief Wellness Officer here. And I am so delighted today to be able to spend a little time with the beautiful Courtney Calais. She has been really quite a student of the 5-element system, and I'm just so honored to be able to chat with her today live via video, so we can actually see each other and you all can see what we look like, and that we're just fabulous women, normal human beings. We're so grateful to be on this call today, on this interview. We've had quite a few roadblocks, so we both are feeling very blessed it's actually happening. So hello, Courtney.
Hi, Robin. Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Really well, thank you. So I'm out here in California, and you are in
North Dakota.
That's
Yeah.
North Dakota. So awesome. So I want to tell everybody a little bit about you. Let's see. I'm just learning how to do this for the very first time. So Courtney actually is a medical student right now. She was 2014 Miss Mississippi World, as just quite a list of credentials. She's an amazing woman, and she is also the spokeswoman for the Alzheimer's Association. And when she and I spoke a while back, we really hit it off because she just has so much passion for the world of integrative health, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about that. She received her bachelor's and master's degree from Johns Hopkins University, and she's currently pursuing her medical degree at the University of North Dakota. So she's a very, very busy woman. We are so graced and grateful to have her with us today. So Courtney, give us a little bit of your background and why you are so passionate about health.
Of course. Well, I kind of fell into it a little bit. And also as a result of just having a lot of familial chronic illness, all of that, it allowed me to take into consideration the things that we commonly neglect on a daily basis. Just to answer questions, why does this person get sick and this person doesn't, and things like that. But I was really interested in healing and serving others. I mean, since I was like 8 years old, I wanted to do something with medicine. And my dad, he got multiple sclerosis when I was 12. And so as a result of that, I kind of had a firsthand experience with the healthcare system and disease at large, whether I wanted it or not. And so seeing the way that he had been affected by what they believe to be like exposure to pesticides while he was working on this like fruit orchard as a child, I just realized about the importance of the environment in our everyday life and how that can either make us flourish or dwindle, essentially. And certain people are more predisposed to that than others. Everyone has their own sensitivity, and it's very likely that you could be in a restaurant with a group of people or half of the people or 3/4 of the people that will never ever need to really consider the quality of the food that they eat or the air that they breathe. And then there's a small fraction, probably those that are more like you and I, that really do have to take it into consideration. And I think that PCOS is a type of affective disorder like that. It's just a result of people that are more in tune with their environment and more susceptible to any damages that it might cause. And so we have to be very specific about the types of things that we put into our body, the way that we rest, the chemicals that we expose ourselves to, how we reduce those chemicals as well, which is just as important. And so not to go too far in, because this is only your first question, but that's kind of what gave me my main interest in health and everything. And that will be a lifelong journey. So I am happy to be on that journey with you, Robin.
Yeah. And we're just so thrilled to have found you. I know that you've been a real advocate for the PCOS 5-element system. You kind of live it. You've figured a lot of it out yourself. And to take it one step further, you became a beauty queen while, going through all of the struggles of PCOS, which is absolutely amazing, right? So you've taken, those devastating symptoms over here and kind of a mess, right? And you turn it into something really beautiful. And what I'd like to do in our interview today is, we are launching a brand new program called the PCOS Challenge, 8 weeks to transform your life. So it's bigger than just healing from some of the symptoms of PCOS. It's really understanding that when you get it, you can really do anything you want with your life, right? When you start to heal and get those health conditions out of your way, and they're not weighing you down every single day. I know for so many of us, it can feel like we're slogging through mud every day. Life can feel so heavy. We're tired. A lot of times we put on extra weight. We have this low-grade inflammation that's constantly going on for us, right? I mean, you've lived it. You've talked about it. We get acne. That's just a symptom of that, but it really affects our self-esteem. We get depressed, we get anxious, we can't sleep at night, we have digestive problems, and then a lot of us are told that we can't ever have children. I mean, I can't tell you how many of our community has said, "Oh, the doctor told us that my husband and I that we could never have children," and we believe that and we take it to heart. So, once you start to see that those issues are in your hands, right, that you have all the power, then life becomes really amazing. And so I'd like to sort of walk through. So instead of, just the PCOS challenge, here are some things you can do to feel better. This is really, here's some things you can do to transform your life. And so I want you to share. So we really think of the 5-element system, right? The system that you really live, which is all about element number 1 is food as medicine. So I'd like to have you talk about that. And element number 2 is exercise as medicine, or we say movement as medicine. And number 3 is cravings awareness. And number 4 is support, community support. And then I'm going to tuck in number 5, which was really number 1, but it's nutraceuticals. It's really nutrients to help our bodies to function properly. So I'd like for you to start, because that system is scientifically proven to help us heal and live a life that we love. So I'd like to start with element number 1. Let's go back to the nutraceuticals, or the nutrients. How did they help you, and how do you feel that nutrients are really important for healing and being your best? Like, how did they help you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they are the equation. They're the building blocks. You can't do it without the right ingredients. For me, I guess my performance in life in general, my mood, all of that, it's directly influenced by what I put into my body. And for other people, that's not the case. And I thought that everyone was like me up until a point. And then I realized that, it's actually much harder for me to just function than many people. And I'm sure that people that struggle with PCOS will eventually come to that conclusion. And then they're probably like, why did I get this crappy hand? And I've asked that question too. But, after you ask that question and realize there's not really an answer, the thing is that food has an incredible capacity to benefit us in a way that it may not in others. And so what I tend to do is just a very low glycemic index diet. So very low in sugars, high in the healthy fats. They tend to benefit me the most, especially with mood, cognition, just, function, as well as, proteins, low carb, all of that. Very important. And green cruciferous vegetables. I've tried everything. I've tried the high carb, low fat, high carb. And it is very clear that keeping more of an Atkins type, or at least a paleo type diet, has been the most beneficial. And as a marathon runner, that's kind of atypical because a lot of the people that do distance running, they just carb up all the time, and they have their own eating issues that even without PCOS. So I definitely have had to learn about the different ways to modulate like your caloric intake. It's just a really precise margin that you have to be in order to not gain weight, but also to have enough energy. And you just have to realize that there's a requisite consciousness of that if you want to be healthy, and the alternative is to be sick, which is far less productive. So you're better off just putting the time and energy into improving yourself rather than spending that time and energy sulking. I mean, it's going to be the same balance either way. So that's a very long-winded response, but I'm guessing that you would like to go into the second.
Well, yeah, so life is a lot better when you feel better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much a given. So yeah, you have so much energy during the day, and how basically do you want to spend it? So we kind of skipped right over the nutrients, right? We went into food. So I want to emphasize though the foods that you talked about, which were fats. We often think that fat makes us fat, right? So it's totally not right, but we want to say that unhealthy fats make us fat. So one of the big deals about our program that's coming up, the PCOS challenge, is that we dig into what are healthy fats and why they're so important, and why eating good healthy fats doesn't make us fat, but actually can help us lose weight, balance hormones, right? All those things that you've learned on your own, right?
Yes, those healthy fats. We actually got a lecture on this, and it was the most helpful lecture I've ever received in terms of being able to have like a real life application. And so, they recommend the mono and the poly unsaturated fats, and some saturated fats like coconut oil, but the trans fats are what you have to stay away from, and a lot of them are being banned in general. So if you can just keep those 4 categories kind of in mind, then you can keep the most of the good and the least of the bad in your diet. But I'd say that, there's a lot of research that goes to show that like omega-3s and vitamin D, things of that nature, like cod liver oil, they help with immune precursors that are removing like beta amyloid plaques, which cause Alzheimer's from the brain. And so they have certain fats can be extremely, extremely helpful to your health, your cognition, and your ability to function as a person, which for me, I struggle with that. So I guess I can never get enough of my healthy fats.
Yeah, absolutely. And proteins are so important for building. And so we're going to get into all that in the program, but just want to kind of understand sort of your journey. So going back to, how did you discover that nutrients or supplements were so important for you? Like, what did they do for you that you couldn't do just through food and movement?
Mostly it was in my interest of dieting and losing weight and being thin, that I did a lot of research. I was pre-med at the time, and so in the midst of that, you get like some information on health in the pre-med curriculum, but most of it is just very abstract, like scientific and mathematical principles. And so somewhere in there, I was like, I'd like to learn more about how to lose weight and how to be skinny and how to be good in pageants, because this was my 21-year-old self that had very bizarre priorities in mind. And on that pathway, I just like watched, hours and hours of lectures from these doctors at like University of California, San Diego, UCSB, like all of these people on your side of the United States, and they were talking about like these alternative health things, and I was like, what are these guys talking about? And they're coming from major reputable universities like Berkeley, and I was skeptical of those West Coasters with their new ideas and everything, but I began to put some of them into practice, and like things like the grain brain, and how it's like just crappy grains and whatnot can have a very inflammatory effect on your health. And I didn't believe it until I saw it in myself and realized that you just have to reduce those chemicals and whatnot. But I actually came from parents that didn't allow me to like really eat anything processed when I was younger. Couldn't watch anything but like the Discovery Channel on TV, like really very very restricted lifestyle. So when I went to college, that was like my first exposure to crappy food. And so in the midst of that, after about like a year and a half or maybe like 2 years of feeding myself, I was just like, wow, I'm really bad at this and I have no energy. And I'm just like, I mean, I was like maintaining my weight, but I just was getting into this really bad pattern. And I was like, no one else has to think about this like I do. Like, what on earth is causing this this cycle to be so hard? And so I just researched what the alternative philosophies were on nutrition and found them to be more helpful than mainstream.
Awesome. Well, you got some good research because you were able to get your weight where you wanted to be and still have energy, right? And be able to think clearly. And I remember when we talked, we had a great interview with Courtney back in August, I believe it was. Let me see if I can, I might not be able to share it. Let's see, sometimes it comes right up, but yeah. A beautiful picture of her, kind of how she is now, except her whole body. And we talked about how, you could gain like 3 pounds in an hour or, 3 pounds in a day, no problem. And how it was crazy, right? And how you really had to like figure things out to be able to maintain your weight.
Yeah, it requires a very precise balance, and Insulite has helped me so much with that. And I actually discovered them when I'm 25 now. And I discovered that when I was 23, and it was amazing. It was like almost everything became so much easier, and I was like, oh, this is too good to be true. Like, one of my organs is gonna fall out. Like, I'm able to eat carbohydrates, and my weight is balanced, and I have less extreme period cramps. And so in the process of taking that and being able to have like a regular cycle, I kind of learned what it was like to be normal, which was really nice. But it's still difficult. It's just less difficult, which I will certainly take.
Yeah, so when you have the right nutrients, right, which is element number one, it really helps your body to stay a little bit more balanced, right? That's the idea. So tell us a little bit. So we talked about element number one, supplements. We've talked about element number two, food as medicine. So we'll definitely do a deep dive into what that looks like in the program. And we'll learn some of what Courtney has learned in her trial and error. I mean, one of the things that happens is that, for a lot of us, we have to do our research on our own, and then we have to try things and see if it works. And when you learn from those who have been there, the learning curve is way shorter, right? Yeah. So number three is movement as medicine. So tell us a little bit about how you move to stay in shape and stay healthy, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So for me, I tend to be like a high adrenaline, high cortisol type person. So the types of exercises that my personality type enjoys, like running, aren't exactly good for me. What I need is the things that calm me down, like walking, a slow pace, maybe outside at night is really great just to relax me so I can sleep maybe. And yoga is so, so great at that. I mean, it is actually proven to be able to lower the sympathetic nervous stimulation. So you're not going to be so wired. So like on the verge of a panic attack or something like that. And for PCOS sufferers, that's important because we have higher than normal levels of testosterone, and that converts to all sorts of things, intermixing with cortisol in the process. So we need to learn how to relax. And if you don't, then that tends to cause weight gain, which just makes it all worse. And I say this from a point of experience as someone who has, gained weight and been too thin. And I look forward to finding that balance, but it's a sliding scale right now. All I can say is that anybody who can learn from my experience, I'd recommend just doing the most that you can to use exercise to just relax yourself, and focusing on that, focusing on de-stressing. It'll also help you to keep your hair, so that you don't have that type of alopecia that PCOS sufferers often suffer from. So that's important. And yoga helps with that. It also helps increase the blood flow to your head. So that's good too.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of really important points, and that is that women with PCOS tend to have higher than normal stress levels. And you're right, we're really like drawn to those higher adrenaline physical activities. How did you discover that running wasn't working for you?
Well, it was a process. I had done like a ton of races, and I was like super, well, this was all like college and like college grad school years, and I was doing like a lot of marathons and whatnot, and I was actually using that as an excuse so that I could run for like 6 hours a day or so, just because I really liked it and I really liked eating, and so I would be able to compensate for it all by training, as I would call it, training for my races. And I laugh because that is not a healthy lifestyle. But, sometimes people that suffer from PCOS are more on the extreme side of things. They might really love to exercise and really love to eat. And the unfortunate thing is that moderation is the key to health, and something that I've only learned later in life and hope to master as I proceed down the timeline of life. But yeah, I just realized that I couldn't sustain that like endurance running for my whole life. And I'm not sure what it was, but I would just spend so much time at the gym. Like I would come in, and then like the people that were working there, they'd always be gone by the time I left. Like shifts would pass. Yeah, I know. But when you're a student and like you're not working, you have time to do ridiculous things like that while still remaining a productive member of society. Yeah. But now that I'm like a little bit more mature, I know that there are more important things. So.
Well, you're so blessed to have figured this out so young. Oh my gosh, so blessed. And as we're talking, we hope that you're understanding that everything that you do is about hormone balance, right? So the nutrients you take are about balancing hormones in an effective way that support you. What you eat is all about managing your hormones. And we're talking insulin and cortisol, the biggies, right? And then how you move is all about the hormonal response that your body has to the movement. And so what you learned was that running was super stressful because it builds cortisol, and yoga, or a lot of types of yoga, are very restorative. So they don't raise cortisol as much, or cortisol comes up and then goes back down. So it's a little bit of a scientific conversation here, but for the most part, everything that we do has a hormonal consequence.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of the greatest like mysteries in health are because of that endocrine system, which is so elusive and that controls all of your hormones. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And so we really have to consider the role of hormones in that, because it's vital.
So let's talk just for a moment about cravings. So what have you experienced as far as cravings go?
Wow, I really think I'm on like the extreme end of every single one of these pillars here, Robin. But in terms of cravings, I'd say like there's really no amount of any food that I would feel full at. Like it's an ongoing process of like learning self-control, because I think that our system of fullness and whatnot is not totally right with the PCOS brain, or at least from what I've experienced. Just because I mean, when I was running a lot, I could eat like, I don't know, like 2 whole pizzas in a day. And I'd burn that, and I'd probably still like lose weight because I was burning so many calories, and I might swim or do something else.
That's like 24 slices of pizza, isn't it? Or like 16, depending on the cut. So in terms of cravings, yeah, I crave everything. But what you really crave as a PCOS sufferer is usually carbs and sugar. And why? Because those are the most readily available stores of energy. So when your metabolism's off, your brain and the rest of your body, they're like, we want something fast and we want it now because your reserves are not adequate or they're not being mobilized. And so as a result of that, you think that you need to eat more, and your body wants it ASAP, and so that's carbs and that's sugar. And the processed food industry has done a great job at making foods that are like very bad at making you feel full, but very good at like being high in calories and whatnot. And so your brain grows to love those because they're like, we're gonna get a really big payday, so let's have a bag of Oreos because we're gonna get the nutrients faster than if we had maybe, I don't know, some fish and some broccoli. So the stuff that's the worst for you in the long term is what you tend to crave the most in the short term because it's the most bioavailable. But oftentimes you don't eat just what you need for right now. You'll overeat because the volume of these processed foods is far less than what in proportion to their caloric amount. So like if you look at the volume of vegetables compared to the amount of calories they provide, for example, celery, 10 calories per 10 ounces. No, maybe like 2 ounces. But anyhow, it's a very large volume for a very small amount of calories, those calories being negative calories that actually burn more than they use. And so that's why vegetables can actually help you to feel fuller, but you have to override that initial primal primitive response and kind of overcome our fight or flight, hunter gatherer, any term you want to use. You've got to overcome that mechanism to prevent obesity in today's society, where these like high calorie, low nutrition foods are readily available, because humans weren't designed to live in a world like this. But fortunately, I think that we've become advanced enough cognitively to be able to think out this problem. But it will take an effort, and that's just something we have to recognize and prioritize at the same level as we might work, family, relationships. Health is very important, and sometimes you have to overcome the food environment in order to limit those cravings or those bad decisions that you could make. But it's entirely worth it, because the alternative is, being sick. You're then spending way more money on healthcare and way more time on maybe different types of treatments. So, insurance is learning to recognize this, because they're putting more emphasis on like preventative care and stuff that they never did before, only because we're heading towards socialized medicine where price actually matters to the government. And so they're thinking about this, and it's not going to be long before it's a common concept. But we're particularly vulnerable to it because, if it goes unchecked, I think that PCOS sufferers, other people with maybe hormonal problems as well, will be the first to be hurt by having a substandard supply of food in a toxic environment and whatnot. So it's more than possible to accommodate it. It just requires that extra cognitive step. So it's a priority, I would say, or it is for me, and that's really all I know.
Well, you've covered a lot of things in that in that last few minutes. So we talked about cravings, and I think you're just right. I always say don't bring the enemy to the table when you're at a restaurant, because I know if they bring that bread basket with that nice, beautiful slab of butter, I'm going to eat the whole thing. And not only that, but I'll say, oh, could you bring me another one? Because it just seems like there's no end to how much we can eat. And especially if it's in the form of bread, because our body's craving nutrients and we're not getting any. So you just keep eating and eating and eating. And that's a good example with pizza for sure. That was a perfect example. And, we're going to dig deep in our program and our in our PCOS challenge around all of these things. So, what foods help with hormone balance, and, what helps with cravings. And cravings aren't bad. The really cool thing I think about PCOS is we are pretty sensitive, passionate, really amazing people, and we can do anything, right? So we just sense things a little bit more than others. We can take that sensitivity and that passion and be amazing if we know how to channel it. And cravings are absolutely not bad. We just have to figure out how to use them to our advantage and what we actually really are craving, right? And not using food as a substitute. And then we talked about movement. And so we'll learn about what types of movement elicit what types of hormones. And one of the things that you mentioned that we'll be covering as well, which is huge and we don't talk about very much, it's not one of the 5 elements, but it is in our program, is detoxification and environmental toxins. And you talked about environmental toxins. You're so knowledgeable in this area, and I think this is an area that you have studied or are studying or want to study. Is that right?
Yeah, toxicology. I did my grad degree is in toxicology, so
that's right.
Know about chemicals.
Yes. So we look at that, and the 5-element nutraceutical system has support for detox in it, because we are really good at hanging on to some of those toxins, but I think that they affect us a little bit more than maybe other people, which is kind of what you talked about at the very beginning of our interview, is that some people it's not a big deal, right? But for many of us, toxins are a really big deal, and they can really be huge hormone disruptors. So we talk a little bit about that in the program, and then we do a gentle detox. And one more thing I wanted to touch on that you said, which I think is so important, is that you can actually eat a lot of really healthy foods, right? You probably will eat more than you think you should or think you can, and you will actually feel so satiated and feel so good and so hormonally balanced. Whereas if you ate the processed foods, you get to eat a teeny bit of it, and this is my new phrase, you'd feel like crap, right? And you'd gain weight, or you'd be hormonally imbalanced. So you touched on a lot of really, really important things, Courtney.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Robin.
We're so appreciative that you're here today. Is there anything else? Can you give our community just a few last words of to a woman with PCOS who is really struggling, who doesn't know next steps? What would you advise her to do?
Well, support being one of the pillars. I'd say it would be very helpful to align yourself with others that are in the same situation as you. And if you're listening to this, then you probably have already reached that point by finding Robin and PCOS.com. And so, investing in the 8-week PCOS challenge would be a great step. But even just going on the website and looking at testimonials, I remember when I first found Insulite, I actually went online, and there's a bunch of videos on YouTube, and this was Insulite's been around for quite a while, so this was a different form of Insulite, but just as effective and great company. And I watched all their videos, and that's how I learned about it. And then I ended up one day placing an order and being able to talk to the girl who was in the video. It was Katie Humphrey, and just kind of asking more, learning more about PCOS. In the midst of that, I was losing like tons of weight. I lost like 20 pounds my first month on Insulite. So the supplements are really helpful, and if I didn't take them, then I have not taken them, and my life just goes totally out of whack, which almost makes me feel a little dependent, just because if something happens, I don't know what I do. But for now, and because we have this company that we can get the things that we need from, I would really recommend trying out the PCOS supplements, and you do have a money back guarantee on that, but you're going to use them and love them and probably be sharing them with all of your friends. So
the benefits await. But yeah, just researching and learning more will definitely help to bring to light a lot of what seem like mysteries about what you're suffering from. Oftentimes people that have PCOS don't even know that they have it. They know they have symptoms, but they don't know that they have a syndrome or a disease. And so being able to put those symptoms into a category then helps you to find the solutions. And so that helped me, just learning from what other people had done. And I learned how to avoid, or why I should avoid sugar and certain processed things. And right now I'm actually going through or about to begin IV metal chelation because I have high levels of cadmium. So it just learning from others, learning what they had succeeded in, and maybe, making friends with somebody in your home, in life or work, or anyone in your neighborhood that might struggle with this. Ask them questions, and you can also learn from people on the internet. I did that and it works. So I just wish the best to you. It's more than possible to overcome the struggle that occurs with PCOS and requires so much willpower. But what I've come to realize is that it's going to be hard either way, and I'd rather have it be hard while I'm working towards something good than when I'm trying to, or not trying to, but when I'm self-destructing and just eating crappy and not sleeping well. It's going to take work no matter what, and it's better to invest your energy towards becoming a better self. And I think it's a good investment. So best of luck to all those ladies.
Thank you so much, Courtney. And, we know that just by doing research, just by taking that next step and continuing on that spectrum of next steps for yourself, it actually supports your immune system in a really profound way, and you already begin to heal. It changes the structure of your DNA. So it's fantastic. I mean, just by watching this video, you're actually beginning to heal and change the way your DNA expresses itself. So we're so grateful for you, Courtney. Thank you so much for being on the call today. This interview that we thought might never happen. And we look forward to seeing you at some point in person, live. Courtney has a direct line to us for her supplements that she never runs out. But we just want to point out that it's the whole 5-element system. You can't just do the supplements without doing the food, the movement, and all the rest. Yes.
There was one more thing.
Yes.
I recently started this, but in terms of recommendations, I did invest in this really cute journal from Pure One that I love looking at, with the matching pen, and it's all sparkly and whatnot, and I write down the stuff that I eat and then what I'm supposed to eat for the week, just so that I have enough calories and vitamins and whatnot, because I don't make good decisions in the moment. So for other people that could be helpful too. It's helped me so much, because whenever I do that, I don't mess up and eat something awful and then have to sleep for 12 hours or whatever else. So making a food journal, but also getting a journal that you like to look at, that can make all the difference in whether you use it or you don't. So something to try.
Great. That's a wonderful tip. Journaling is so important for success. Science shows that those who journal are much more successful. And we love pretty. So pretty makes it all the more fun. Thank you again so much, Courtney. And we wish you the very best in this new year. Good luck to you in all your endeavors.
Thank you very much, Robin.
Bye, Courtney.